So people have asked me to do a video on how I see things playing out in 2023, and I've been thinking about that for a while. And yesterday I sort of got my final inspiration for how I want to approach this. We're not in the time of the seals yet. Seals 1 through 4, 5, 6, 7, none of those have been broken yet. And none of the seals can be broken until we're in heaven and Christ gets the scroll. Okay, and Revelation is prophecy. It's all end time prophecy. The whole book is end time prophecy. So there is, however, a lead up to the opening of the seals, to when the hero, the white horse rider, comes on the scene and receives a crown. That is, he gets his kingdom. When the red horse rider gets his giant sword and takes peace from the earth. And it's not just wars that happen. It's also just strife in families, strife in countries, people hating each other, people turning against each other, people killing each other just for the sake of killing each other. And that is going to happen as part of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And then there's going to be famine and price controls, and a quarter of the earth is going to be affected by these things. Not the whole earth, but a quarter of the world's population is going to be affected. The seals do not result in a quarter of the earth's population dying, but rather a quarter of the earth is affected by these things. So there is a lead up, however, to when the seals are going to be opened. And I believe that they're going to be opened, the first four are going to be opened on the same day. It's sort of like the living creatures are going to say, come, 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 and the four horsemen are off riding. And you have to understand that when you have wars, immediately following them, like immediately, you have the destruction of homes and people's lives and crops and stores and governments, governmental systems. Everything collapses if you're in the middle of a war. Look at Ukraine. Look at any places that have been devastated by war in recent history, and you'll find that immediately afterward, all the things that accompany the other three horsemen, including death and Hades, who are the last ones, these things follow war. There's a lead up for all of this. Okay, this stuff doesn't come out of nowhere. And we're going to see the day approaching. That's what the scriptures tell us. So we're going to see with greater clarity and greater focus certain things happening that are going to lead up to the release of the four horsemen. So right now the world is being divided up according to alliances. Okay, so we're looking at military and economic alliances, countries that are sort of consolidating together and saying, you know, we're on a team, and other countries going, yeah, we're on a team together. And you see these very clear, I mean, this is really coming into focus. There's a lot of clarity on this anymore. These nations that are aligning themselves with one another. Okay, and you really can't have a world war, which is kind of what we're looking at in the red horse rider with the big sword. You can't have a big world war unless you've got countries all over the world who are aligning with each other and going to come to each other's aid in a war. Okay, or multiple wars. And remember, wars and rumors of wars is one of the signs of the end. All right, so I believe we're going to see one of these big wars. And the very first war that is coming is the Gog Magog war. Okay, the Gog Magog deal. So that first alliance, the scriptural name for it is Gog Magog. Okay, and Gog is the name of the leader. Magog is the country, the main country, and there's a whole bunch of other countries that are going to be aligned with this group here, including modern Turkey and Iran. And then there's going to be some African nations like Sudan and so on, Ethiopia. This is an alliance of nations. This alliance is going to solidify, and it's going to be very obvious that this group has come together. The Gog Magog war, I believe that's going to happen right here. Okay, Gog Magog. Remember the Gog Magog war? These people come into the land of Israel from the north. This war is going to be fought basically on the Golan Heights, right at the border there with Syria. And that's where the war is going to end, with a great big earthquake and with people fighting against each other and with stuff coming from the sky, hailstones and so on. You can read about that in Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39. There's going to be a giant earthquake in the land of Israel. This is up in the Galilee area. Galilee, Jordan, the Dead Sea is all part of the Jordan Rift Valley, which is part of the African, I think it's the Great Rift Valley, Africa. It's a huge fault that runs through Africa up into the Middle East, up into Lebanon. And in the past, there's been great earthquakes in the land of Israel. And in fact, the year that King Uzziah died, there was a giant earthquake. And Josephus says the earthquake happened because Uzziah went into the temple to offer incense. Okay, and there will also be somebody else going into the temple of God, and there's going to be a giant earthquake on that day. So that's just a little sidebar there. But this earthquake is going to happen, and basically God is going to step in and cause the Gog Magog alliance to dissolve. This is when this Gog Magog, and I think it's Russia and all these other countries. Russia is the big dog who's protecting all these other countries, helping them. They're helping Russia. And this is when the Russians are going to be destroyed, okay? That's when their alliance is going to fail. And then Ezekiel 39:9 says that God is going to cause or allow fire to come down on Magog. Wherever Magog is, whatever, we don't know. I don't know exactly where Magog is, but fire is going to come down on them and destroy that place. In addition to Magog going up in flames, so will the coastlands who are unsuspecting. This is people who are not suspecting that they're going to be destroyed at that same time. All right, so this is the first group that's going to come on the scene, and they're going to have a war. God is going to initiate the war, okay? God starts it. He puts a hook in the jaw. He says that Gog is going to have an evil design in his mind. He's going to think thoughts. He's going to come down, and God's in charge of the timing for all of that, okay? God is the one who's going to turn him around and bring him down onto the mountains of Israel. Okay, that's from the north. Okay, so God's in charge of starting that war. He's also going to be the one who is responsible for ending it with the earthquake and all the things that we read about at the end of Ezekiel 38 and 39. I encourage you to look at those passages yourself. Revelation chapter 12 talks about the travail of the woman. Okay, so that the dragon is standing in front of the woman and she's in agony. She's about to be delivered. Okay, the woman represents Israel, and she is in the middle of a huge catastrophe. And travail in the Old Testament often symbolized war or an invasion or some very bad calamity. And I think it's Jeremiah that talks about, why is every man's hands on his loins like a woman in labor? Okay, so it's because of an invasion. It's because they're about to be destroyed. Okay, so Israel here is standing at her, staring in the face of her destruction, and then she is rescued. Okay, the war is going to end, and it's going to be very brief. I think it's going to be less than 2 weeks, right around there. And it's in the context of this war, in the context of the travail of the woman, that the child is born. Okay, that's when the child is born. Who is the child? Well, that's you and me. Okay, That's when we receive our immortal bodies. It doesn't say that the child is raptured here. It says the child is born. Okay, the woman gives birth to the child, and then the child will be caught up. Okay, this is when the rapture is. And if you remember, when you have a male child, the first child to open the womb is the heir, the one who's going to rule, the head of the tribe, the elder of the tribe. And there's going to be 7 days between the time the child is born and the time the child is offered to God and circumcised on the 8th day. Okay, so there's going to be 7 days here where Satan is going to try to devour the child. And on the 8th day, that's when the rapture, first rapture, will occur. Okay, that's the first one. That's yours and mine. It's in the context of this war. And then it's on this same day that we see Christ taking the scroll, and I think it's seals 1 through 4 get opened, and also trumpets 1 through 4 get blown. Okay, and remember, the seals just is a list. It's just a list of things that happen. The trumpets, they're just a list, and they just tell us the sequence that they happen, but they don't tell us when. And you don't have to have all the seals before you have all the trumpets, before you have all the bowls. You just have to look at the list and go, okay, the seal list is its own thing. Where do these seals happen? We know that the 5th seal martyrs are going to be here. They're actually in heaven before Satan is cast out. Okay, and Satan is cast out before the hour of trial, before the abomination of desolation. So that puts the 5th seal over here. And then we know that the 6th seal is when the sun goes dark and the moon turns to blood with the day of the Lord. Okay, and that's what people see on earth. They see the sun going dark, moon turning to blood. They actually see the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then the 7th seal is silence in heaven for half an hour. So the people in heaven, you and I, are going to have this reverential silence in heaven before God pours out his wrath over here. This is the wrath of God, the 7 bowls. So let's go back here to the Gog Magog war. This is the first one that's going to happen. This is going to take out Russia and Russia's allies. And there's going to be a big destruction of Magog and the coastlands. Now, there are some people who say, well, the coastlands could be the United States. It could be any country where people feel really secure and safe, and it's possible that at the same time, all this is going on, that there are parts of the United States, parts of Europe, parts of other places that are also destroyed with fire that comes down. There's going to be these dominoes falling. The dominoes are these particular alliances. Okay, so this is the end of the Gog Magog alliance over here. Okay, right in conjunction with when we are changed. Okay, so one of the things we really need to understand here is that Christ is going to make sure that every kingdom, every empire, every government, every alliance is destroyed so that his kingdom will be the only one that is left to rule over all the other nations of the earth during the millennium. Okay, so all these various alliances of nations are going to fall. And there is an order in which they are going to collapse. All right, so this Russian Gog Magog alliance is going to collapse right about the time of our being changed from mortal to immortal, and about 8 days before we're taken into heaven. And that's when seals 1 through 4 and trumpets 1 through 4 will take place. Okay, so there is another alliance of nations, a secret group of people that have been sort of pulling the strings behind the scenes. They're over the kings of the earth, okay? And I'm talking about the harlot, Mystery Babylon. Okay, we'll just do MB for Mystery Babylon. So in practical terms, who is the harlot today? Okay, the harlot's been in existence. This satanic system of control has been around since the Tower of Babel, since Nimrod. What does it look like today? Who are the players today? Well, the political players are NATO countries, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, of which the United States is a part of that. The harlot is also politically is European countries that are not a part of NATO. Also, as a part of this group is Israel. I'm talking about political Israel and other Western nations. Okay, so we could talk about Australia and New Zealand and some of these other places. So if you're kind of a first world Western European nation, you're under the harlot umbrella, politically speaking, militarily speaking. Whoever controls the finances, though, actually controls, you know, how effective people are going to be in going to war and so on. And right now it's the WEFers that are in control of basically what's going on, okay? Because they control the financial stuff. They also control the worldwide rules about these things, and they are sort of over all kinds of other institutions that, you know, they pull strings with the WHO, with the IMF, so on and so forth. They're connected to the Vatican. They're connected to royalty. They've got connections all over the place. This is just one little glimpse that we get into. It's sort of a window we can peek through to see how the harlot's at work. But you'll notice, I'll just put the U.S. here. Okay, so in the Bible, Revelation tells us that there's going to be 2 times of the destruction of the harlot. The first time around, it's going to be big, really big. But the second time is going to be when Christ returns with the 7th bowl over here, 7 bowls. But the big time of destruction of this entity right here is right here. Okay, so that's when the harlot is destroyed. Okay, at the 6th trumpet, on that hour, day, month, and year that God has already predetermined, and the harlot's going to be destroyed by the beast and the 10 kings who hate her. Okay, so if you kind of are looking at what's going on in the world stage right now, you can pretty much see the Gog Magog alliance lined up. You can see like NATO, and like these two are not friendly toward each other right now. Okay, and they may have been cooperative in the past, but right now there is no cooperation here. And in fact, the lines are being drawn between the Western nations, NATO, Europe, the US, and so on, and all the agencies that are part of that conglomerate. And Russia, Turkey, Iran, and certain African nations that will be a part of that. And from what we can see happening in Europe right now with certain countries that we're supporting with billions of dollars, and with the suspicion that certain NATO countries, perhaps Poland, has already gone into that other Eastern European country, and the unrest in other countries in Europe, that it's very possible that before the harlot is taken out, before Gog Magog is taken out, that NATO, parts of NATO will be dispersed, okay, that it'll be broken up, which will make it more possible then for the harlot to be destroyed over here with fire, smoke, and sulfur. I think it's nuclear. I think that's how that's going to be. But it's possible that we could see a war here between Gog, okay, and, you know, NATO. That could happen as part of the lead up to the Gog Magog war. When Israel is in travail, she's all alone. It's not like there's other people who are with her that are experiencing this war. There's a reason why nobody's coming to her assistance. Okay, there's a reason for that. And I think it's because the U.S. and other countries who would maybe support her are not doing that anymore because they've been incapacitated in some way. So as far as 2023 goes, I think that militarily, we're going to go downhill as a country. Okay, the United States is going to go downhill, and that is going to be what gives Gog the idea that he can now invade Israel. Okay, so we're going to see the decline of the U.S. Okay, a major decline, major, militarily, economically, in all kinds of ways. And remember, all of the circumstances here are leading up to these seals right here, so that by the time this happens, by the time we're raptured, seals 1, 2, 3, 4 they're just going to be opened, and all the events that are associated with that are just going to rush onto the world stage in all their fury. Okay, they're being held back right now. Remember the 4 angels on the earth holding back the 4 winds? Okay, they're holding back the winds that stir up that sea from which the beast comes out. Okay, and that's from Daniel. All right, so we've got the harlot who's going to be majorly destroyed here. I think it's progressive, though. I think that there'll be the decline of the United States militarily, economically, and socially falling apart. So I think we can pretty much see the unraveling of the United States as a world power in the lead up to the Gog Magog War. Okay. There's a third group of people, of alliances, nations that are allied together that the Bible talks about, and that's the kings of the East. And in modern terms, this is China. And, I think it's quite possibly the BRICS nations, and there's more than just Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. There's more that are wanting to be a part of that. And actually, the bulk of the world's population is part of BRICS, okay? When you combine China and India, you got most of the world's population. All right, so the kings of the East we know are going to rise in power, and they're going to be a part of the last days. We're going to see the rise of these nations, and certainly we see China really on the rise, and it's very possible that is part of the decline of the United States, that we're also going to see China taking over Taiwan and Japan and South Korea, those nations that are in the East, as well as having alliances, with the Philippines and Indonesia and other places. Now, China has been very busy over the last couple of decades creating alliances with small developing nations in Africa, in Central America, and has been infiltrating them, giving them money, building ports, building infrastructure, doing all this stuff. And so there's going to be actually a lot of nations that we are not even aware of right now who are going to be allied with China and the kings of the East. So it's very possible that before the Gog Magog War happens, that China will take over Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea. These are the 3 major groups that are going to be on the earth during the last days, where the whole earth is basically going to be divided up, according to which group you're part of. Are you part of the Russian Gog Magog Alliance? Are you part of the harlot NATO European Western World Alliance, the one that's on its way out? Are you going to be a part of the Kings of the East Alliance, which is on the ascendancy? Okay, so the kings of the East aren't going to be destroyed until right here. That's when they're going to be taken out. No discussion about end-time wars would be complete without talking about the beast and the 10 kings. So the beast and the 10 kings are going to be friendly, or the kings of the East are going to be friendly with the beast and his buddies, the 10 kings. So okay, so I'm going to talk about the beast kingdom here in just a minute, but I want to talk about the 10 kings first. I think the 10 kings are going to represent Islamic nations that are around Israel. Okay, so primarily Islam uh, the Islamic countries, and also maybe China, maybe some of these other kings of the East, various countries may be a part of that too. But I think it rises out of the old Roman Empire. And so I think the Islamic nations that surround Israel that were a part of the Roman Empire could be among the 10 kings. All right, so let's talk about the beast for a moment here. Okay, and remember, it's the beast and the 10 kings, along with 4 fallen angels from the Euphrates River and a 200 million man army, could be China, that wipe out the harlot with fire, smoke, and sulfur. Okay, a third of the Earth's population is going to die. And I've showed you on other videos how one nuclear exchange starting can actually, within 15 minutes, there can be hundreds of nuclear warheads in the air destroying major cities throughout the world. So this is not a stretch to say that in a single hour, on a single day, that a third of the world's population could be destroyed by fire, smoke, and sulfur. Okay, that's how NATO is going to be destroyed. It's how Europe, it's how the harlot, the World Economic Forum, all these people who think that they're going to be in control of this brave new world that they're creating, is not going to happen that way. Because there is this guy, the beast, the Antichrist, who's going to rise. Now, when we first see the horseman of the apocalypse, the very first horse is a man who carries a bow. He's on a white horse. A horse is a war animal. It's an animal of war. Only rulers and generals and kings and so on rode white horses. He has a bow, and we're assuming arrows. And he's a victor. Okay, he comes out conquering and to conquer. He's not a king, but he is a war hero. So when he shows up here with seal number 1, on the same day that we're raptured, okay, that's 8th day, that's when the 7th king shows up. That's when he gets his crown, okay? That's when he receives a kingdom. And I think he's going to show up as the hero who saved Israel at the time of the Gog Magog war, okay? That's part of the deception there, is that he is the one, he's the Messiah who rescues this nation. And he is going to be given a crown. He is going to begin to rule. And I think his seat, the seat of Satan, is symbolically portrayed by the city of Pergamum in the letters to the 7 churches. Pergamum means fortress. This man worships the god of fortresses. Satan is the god of fortresses, the god of Pergamum, fortress or tower. And that's when he is given his seat to rule in, his crown that indicates that he's a ruler. He's a warrior king, just like Christ is a warrior king who's going to come back as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords to destroy this guy here. Okay, so this is one of the deceptions, and there are many deceptions. Okay, he's going to come on the scene as the hero. Okay, that is going to get rid of these people here. The Gog Magog war. All right, now NATO, the harlot, whatever, these people here, including Israel, do not realize that this guy has his own agenda, which doesn't include the harlot. He has his own agenda. And we're told that the harlot rides the 7th king, but not the 8th. The 8th king is going to come along and not have anybody on him. So the harlot is going to be destroyed right here, and that's when the 8th king, the Antichrist, begins to rule. Okay, that's when Satan will give the beast his power, his throne, and his great authority. And Satan is going to actually take his hands off of the rule of the earth for the next few months, and it's going to be the beast that does that. He's going to rule, just like Christ is going to rule during the millennium. This is the false millennium here. Okay, the reign of the beast is the false millennium. It's when they are saying peace and safety that sudden destruction comes, and they will not escape. All right, so we've got stuff going on with Russia and this alliance, and that's going to solidify over the next few months. We're going to see a battle going between the harlot, NATO countries, European countries, and the U.S. are going to be going toe-to-toe here. This is going to weaken the United States, and that's going to give Gog and Magog the idea to come and invade Israel. And when that happens, Israel is going to be all alone. God is going to come to her rescue. It's going to be a short war. Gog is going to be destroyed. Fire is going to go on Magog and also on the coastlands. Okay. So the harlot will be crippled, but will still be here. But after a few months, and this is only going to be a few months between the time when the first 4 seals are broken and the 6th trumpet sounds. And that's when the harlot, NATO, World Economic Forum, all the powers that be that have been on the world stage for a very long time are going to be destroyed. And there's only going to be vestiges of them that remain, and they will be at the 7th bowl. That's when all the rest of the harlot will be destroyed. Okay. The beast has a kingdom. The beast does not have a system. The beast is a king, wears a crown, got a throne, got a place he's going to rule from. He's going to have his own kingdom. He'll have his own kingdom over Israel, but may not be in Israel. It may be in that city that's being made right now, Neom. It's in Saudi Arabia, and very possibly there may be a bunker or some such thing in the city of Jerusalem that he will rule from, because we know that there's going to be a lot of bad things happening right here, mostly nuclear, and it's very possible that this rule here could be from a bunker. And remember, the 6th seal right here, people say, ask for the rocks to fall on them and hide them. They go into the caves and so on. They ask to be hidden from the wrath of God and from the Lamb. And it's very possible that there may be a whole new kind of underground matrix-like, kingdom that's set up and involves basically underground bunkers and that sort of thing. Okay, now we're getting into all kinds of weird stuff, but there are underground bunkers all over the world, and it's very possible that the 7th king could rule from one of those in Jerusalem. All right, it's at this time right here, when the harlot is destroyed, that the remnant of Israel will flee into the wilderness. Sorry, this board is so messy. But the remnant, will flee into the wilderness, and that's how that will happen for the 1,260 days. Okay, Christ will return, and at the time of the 7th trumpet, that's when everything is over, and the final resurrection of believers will take place, the handing out of rewards, and so on and so forth, and the beginning of the millennial reign, the actual gathering together of God's people to begin to reign during that 1,000 years. So as far as military and armies and alliances and all of that goes, these are the main alliances that are going to be in place during the end times. And the amazing thing is we can see it all. Okay, so what this means for you and me is we're going to be here during this incredible decline. But as we see that happening, everything going down, we're going to be looking up because our redemption is drawing near. Okay, the redemption of our bodies. Okay, that a male child is redeemed, remember. We're going to receive the redemption of our bodies, be made immortal. This is going to be a hugely joyful time, and then we're going to be brought into heaven. And we're going to be praying for the people who are on earth, the other believers who are on earth, specifically the 144,000, and then those people who are going to be among the 5th seal martyrs, that the harlot is going to martyr them. Okay, 5th seal right here. So I have a book that has a bunch of timelines and things in it. I need to revise a few of the little pages in there, revise some of the dates. It's the dates for a 2022 rapture, but included in that PDF are also dates for a 2023 rapture, which I think is looking really good for a 2023 rapture. That would be in the fall. The rapture would be on the 8th day of the Feast of Tabernacles. So that's the 7 days we would be here on earth, and we would be ministering to the people who are going to be taking the baton from us and moving it forward, the 144,000 of Israel, and anybody else that the Spirit leads us to during that period of time. But this is my thinking about how the wars are going to play out, and specifically as we see the day approaching, all this is going to become clearer and clearer. But don't be discouraged if you see really bad things happening. If you even see, your country collapsing. Okay, Europe is in a bad way. The United States is not in a very good way either. And all it takes is one Archduke Ferdinand moment, and all of a sudden we have the ability to be at war all over the world. So it's not happy news in the one sense that war is a terrible thing. But if you're watching for the Lord's return and you're going to see the day approaching, the day approaches with these bad things that are happening. So God wants us to know about that so we don't get discouraged. He already put it in the Bible so we could understand these things and then be encouraged by even bad stuff that we see going on. So anyway, we are here right now. We're in the lead up to the Gog Magog war. And it's sort of like there are two storylines running. One is the bad storyline for the world, and the other one is our incredible storyline that will result in our ruling the world. So if you have something to add to the discussion or some interesting points that I haven't brought out, I'll leave that in the comments section. Till then, have a blessed day.